Welcome to Monetize the Mic.
I'm Jessica Rhodes.
And I'm Margy Feldhuhn.
And we are the co-owners of the award-winning multi-seven-figure podcast booking agency, Interview Connections.
This is the show to teach you how to transform your business and life with the power of visibility and strategy.
Let's get started.
On this episode, we are going to be nerding out on the nervous system and on some really deep work that Jess and I have been doing together. And then with the help of Elizabeth Christoph, who is our nervous system angel, and the incredible breakthroughs that work has really made available.
Yeah, I have learned, I'm embarrassed to say, I really didn't know what the nervous system was until like a year or a year and a half ago. I guess I had heard the phrase, but I really didn't understand it. And Elisabeth has been on this podcast, I think 3 times. I interviewed her a couple of years ago. So definitely we'll link to these episodes in the show notes so you can listen. She's been on Margy's panels, leadership in the nervous system panels. And I've just learned so much about the nervous system, and it's helped me like experience the biggest breakthroughs I've ever had.
Yeah. And the reason that Elizabeth's work, and she's legit, she has been featured in Forbes. She's like, we're clearly obsessed with her. We feature her every possible opportunity. We both personally work with her. We have coaching clients work with her when they have something they need to process through their nervous system. Like the level of our trust in her and our love of her is like very, very high because we don't take that lightly, who we work with and also who we send our clients to. So what I love about Elizabeth's work is I think there's such a huge focus in the personal development space on these mindset, emotional, energetic up levels. And I love them. They're amazing. Like, I love them. I've had so many like mindset and your feelings and your emotional guidance system. All that stuff is so real and so important. And also, I felt that I personally, and I've observed other people, kind of hit a ceiling on how far I could go with just mindset and emotion and energy. And I really wasn't sure why until I learned more about the nervous system and the work that Elisabeth's doing, and realizing that my mind, my energy, my spirit was like leveling up like crazy, but no one had talked to my body about what we were doing. And that resulted in, yes, migraines, exhaustion, fatigue, but also in me sort of like getting up to the ledge of doing this thing that I knew I should do in this leap of faith and backing off because the discomfort in my body was so intense. I felt like I couldn't handle it, whether that was like, super tight in the chest, like shaking hands, shaking voice. Like, it was just like, it was like my body was like, hell no. And so I'm ready to show up powerfully and make this big move. And meanwhile, I'm like shaking. I'm like, I have this weak voice. I'm like so tense. I can barely get the words out. Like, and I'm like, this ain't it, like this. And it would make me back off because I'd be kind of honestly embarrassed because my body's not cooperating and I feel so powerful. I want to show up powerfully. And then I'm showing up with so much fear in my body, and people can feel that and I can feel that. And it started messing with my mindset because I would like go for these up levels. Then I would have these reactions, this old fear and stuff in my body. And I would back off because I would be like, oh God, it's too much. It was like, there was a fear of the fear, like feeling the discomfort in my body from the fear was so uncomfortable that I would back off and I'd be like, okay, I won't do it then. And then I would be getting mad at myself for playing small. But the threat response that my body was going through, it was like, you're going to die. You're going to die. It's like, you're not going to die from going on Facebook Live. But if your body is sure that you will, it will feel really, really scary. And your brain's job, as Elisabeth says all the time, is to keep you safe. So this has been such a profound thing for me because it's really allowed me to quantum leap because I've already done all this work. I've processed a lot of trauma. I've done a lot of energetic work. I've done so much mindset, so much emotional guidance system stuff. it was the body was really the last piece for me. And by now learning how to work with my nervous system and get the nervous system on board and take that time to be like, hey, here's what we're doing. It's going to be safe. And like doing the neuro drills and the tapping, the power and the grounding that I now have is absolutely incredible. And I say that as someone who has a tendency to dissociate. And when you dissociate, you're not in your body. And so getting in my body is a focus for me. It's always something that I have to be really mindful of. And I'm like up in the head, I'm like flying, like, let's do this. Typical air sign if you're into astrology. And my Achilles heel is always grounding, a lack of grounding. And feeling safe in my body, feeling safe grounding into my body has made me so much more powerful as a leader, as a mammal, as, we are like alpha apex predators as humans. Like, and there's something when you bring that full power, not in an aggressive way, in your body to all the other work you've done mentally, it's fucking crazy. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
No, we'll have the explicit sign, but I feel like that's very fitting for a show with you because we always put the little explicit emoji react in Slack. So
yes, I'm a big fan of being explicit. I always say, I want to tell you explicitly what I want so that there's no miscommunication.
Yeah, I love all of this. And, Margy came to me recently, and I alluded to this I didn't allude to it. I said it in the last episode, but I want to dive more into this. I mean, Margy, why don't you share that side of the story? Because I want you to share.
Okay. So something was happening where I was getting dysregulated when I was talking to Jess. And there's something we talked about in the last episode. We'll talk about it this episode, like mirroring and fawning and stuff like that, which is a trauma response where you want someone to like you or you want to connect with someone. But to do that, you try to be what you think they want or to mirror what they're doing, which can backfire, right? Because if people feel like you're being inauthentic and you're kind of stepping on their toes and you're doing what they're doing, but it doesn't feel like it's really authentic, it can dysregulate them, right? And they start to get like, they don't know why, but they're just getting this feeling around you of like, I don't know if I like this. And I was starting to get that feeling, and especially stepping into the personal brand, I was getting it more because Jess was getting more dysregulated. Understandably, I was also kind of dysregulated because it was scary to step out into this content. And I really wasn't working with my nervous system yet at that point. So I'm already, I would say, delicate nervous system wise in this new situation. And then Jess's dysregulation was just like, it was a thing.
Like
and
10 out of 10.
And yeah. And I like the reason people are like, why do you have such a successful partnership? And like, we are able to talk to each other about stuff that like you would never talk to someone about, like, because I started to think about Susie. So Susie, if you've heard past episodes, I'll let Jess do the whole story, but she was like a friend in middle school. And there was this experience with her where in typical middle school girl, unevolved fashion, she like, pulled this kind of power move where she stopped talking to Jess. She brought the friend group with her, super traumatizing. And in some ways, and Jess and I have talked about this, there are some parallels between me and Susie, just like energy wise. And like, so it was really interesting because I was already a little wonky with my regulation because I'm stepping into this new level. Jess seems dysregulated. I can tell that there's more like fawning and mirroring, which is making me feel smothered, which is making me feel dysregulated. And I started thinking about Susie. And we had done coaching. We worked with great coaches. And, both Jess and I are quite familiar with each other's like middle school trauma. And we talk about it all the time with our coaches. And I was like, you know what? I wonder if this happened with Susie. I wonder if Susie was getting dysregulated. And of course, a middle school girl is not going to be evolved enough to say, you know what? I think you're dysregulating my nervous system. Can we talk through the trauma that we might be playing out together so that we can have a more aligned dynamic? No, middle school girls are bitches. She was like, bye. and she used her influence to create, the new situation that she wanted, which is what people do, especially in middle school. So it was really interesting though, because I realized we had talked a lot with coaches about the Susie situation, but it was always the aftermath, right? It was always like, okay, you've been abandoned and now there's this abandonment wound. How do we, build your self-worth up, which is like fine, but honestly, it's kind of superficial, right? Because if you don't get to the root of something, you can layer affirmations all day long. It's not going to work. It's not going to work at the level of your nervous system. And you can say, I feel so much better, but people can tell that you don't. So, and that's not just Jess, like I've done that too. We've all done that and been like, I'm doing great. And it's like, maybe. So I realized we've never gone before the Susie incident, right before it. Right. So we've always just said, yeah, like Susie's a jerk. Middle school girls are traumatized.
And if Susie, if you happen to be listening, I forgive you and I love you very much.
Susie, we understand what happened with your nervous system. We get it. We're on the level with you. And honestly, as far as middle school girls go, like truly no judgment. It's a savage time. So yeah, but it was really, I was like, we've never asked the question, why did Susie leave? Because it's always been, I think people are afraid to ask questions like that personally. And one of the things I like to do coaching people is ask those questions that other people are afraid to ask, because it's hard to tell someone who's like, oh, I had this, someone abandoned me and it was so traumatizing. It's pretty in your face to say like, why do you think they left you? Right? Like, because it's not just they're a terrible person. Everybody, as Elisabeth would say, is acting on the level of their nervous system. Everybody is doing the best that they can. And so are there people without empathy? Yes, there are. But the majority of people, they don't do things for no reason, right? It might be their own reasons. It might be their own trauma and have nothing to do with you. But as I was getting this feeling, I was like, I wonder if there's something here that we should dig into about what drove Susie away, and not in a blame way. And this is what I said to Jess. It's very easy to go from a victim of like, this person abandoned me because they're an asshole, to self-blaming of they abandoned me because I'm unlovable and I'm terrible. Those are basically the same thing. Those feel like two different things. They're two sides of the same coin. So how do we take responsibility in a way that's like, what caused this result? Is there a way that I contributed to this? And what did that look like? Because we know it's not, the answer is never going to be you're unlovable. Like, spoiler alert, if that's what you're getting.
You're very lovable.
Yeah. It's never that you're a bad person. It's never that you're fundamentally unlovable or you'll never be enough. I know you have those thoughts. I know they feel real. It's never going to be that. So if we can rule that out and we can rule out that that person is just a monster, then we can come into this middle space of what might have happened here. What energy did I bring into this situation that somebody else didn't want to be around? And I think it's so incredible the way we manifest the people in our lives that we need to learn these lessons and to get to the next level. And like, I was joking with Jess, but it's kind of true. She's manifested me, who is like this evolved Susie, right? Like I was probably more of a Susie, maybe even meaner in middle school because I had a lot of problems, but I've done the therapy. I have processed my trauma. I have done the personal growth work. So whereas Susie, as a middle school girl, the level of her, evolution, all she could do was be like, bye, like I'm going to abandon you. I am an adult who's done a lot of work. So it was so incredible that it's like, you've manifested this version of Susie who's evolved enough to not just be like, bye, I'm going to abandon you, but to really be like, what's going on here? Because I am feeling dysregulated by like the fawning and the mirroring. And I want to like dive into it.
I love it. You were like, I'll let Jess tell the Susie story. And then you told the whole story.
Okay.
I like it.
So I was like, I'll just defer to Jess, but then I was like, I kind of want to keep my narrative on track.
No,
so
it's
now
good.
I would love to go to your version of the Susie story though, because I think it is important. And I'm sorry that I did that. And I would love to be able to honestly tell our listeners that I don't usually do stuff like that, but I can't lie to you guys.
No. It was absolutely perfect. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about manifesting people into your life, because again, people ask me all the time, how did you know Margy was the right partner? And I said, I don't know. I just knew. And God, the universe was like, girl, you need to get complete with your past trauma of feeling abandoned, feeling disconnected, feeling like the female leader of the pack doesn't want you around. Like that's all of my shit. And so really for the past, I mean, we've been in each other's lives for like 5-6 years now as business partners. And there was like these moments of feeling dysregulated and feeling disconnected or abandoned. And I'm just like, it was like, why do I feel less than? Why do I feel dysregulated? And when Margy came to me and was like, it was a Monday morning at 9:30. A Monday morning at 9:30, guys, Margy does not do Zoom calls before 10, like if she can help it. And she was like, hey girl, can you hop on Zoom? And I was like, sure, like whatever. And she gets on and she's like, get ready for a breakthrough. And I was like, sick. I'm always down for a breakthrough. Margy's always serving one up on a platter. Like, here we go. And she then tells me how dysregulated she feels around me. And I was like, okay, like feeling very humbled in that moment. And so she starts talking to me about the Susie thing, because like really the recent breakthrough was like, oh, I have an abandoned moon, blah, blah, blah. Like I've shared it on this podcast before. And she was like, I want you to go deeper. And so literally it was like 48 plus hours of me going to the depths of my deepest insecurities and like traumas. And I was really fucking pissed that Margy was putting me on this journey, because I was like, really, that Monday morning was perfect until you pulled me on Zoom and was like, I'm going to send you on. It's like she buckled me into a roller coaster and then I went like straight down to the bottom. And I was there for a couple of days.
Yeah, I do that. Like there will be aggressive breakthroughs during times where it's like everything's going great, and I'm like, okay, let's face this thing you've been avoiding for so long.
Yeah, but it was so great because the feeling dysregulated around each other like really had never been spoken. And so getting like really facing that head on was so helpful. And there's been like so many like breakthroughs and like getting into alignment. Like if you're clicking a puzzle together, I just feel like every few days we've just like click, 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 click. So it's been really, really great. And so, had this big breakthrough, like I'd be like, okay, well, maybe this happened. She's like, before Susie, it has to be before 6th grade. What happened before? And I'm like revealing to her like some really embarrassing things. And she's like, it's not that. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Like I have to keep going.
So I'm like the least judgmental person ever. Like no one can shock me. You could tell me anything and I'd be like, okay, like, yeah. So I know it's embarrassing to you. It honestly wasn't that bad.
Yeah. I know I can tell Margy anything. Like I like if I make an off-color joke, like I know she's never going to like get upset or judge me for it. So, yeah. So anyway, like we got to the breakthrough. We got to the deepest, darkest root of this problem here. And then she sent me to work with Elisabeth. She's like, now you need to like heal, because like trauma lives in the body. And Elisabeth says this all the time. Trauma really is not in the cognitive mind. Like I never really could have like completely healed that without doing this nervous system work. So Elisabeth worked with me on, EFT tapping and gave me these really important exercises, these applied neurology exercises to calm my nervous system. So now several times a day, if I'm feeling like in a heightened state of threat, I have like an exercise that I can do that immediately calms my nervous system. And I also have these really great affirmations that I do when I'm doing those neuro drills, which are really great. And one of them is my self-expression protects me, which is amazing because being self-expressed and like being fully myself, I previously would feel really scared that that would be the reason somebody would leave me. So when I am self-expressed, my nervous system is like, this is a little scary. So I do these applied neuro drills and I say like, I'm safe being myself. My self-expression protects me. So when I'm putting myself out there, I can remind my nervous system, like, this is safe. And this is actually like a good thing.
Yeah. And I think for anyone listening, even if you can't relate to this exactly, like we all have situations where we get dysregulated or dynamics where we get dysregulated. And if we're willing to really face that and look at what's going on, there's so much of your power available to you that you can take back. And like when Jess and I look back, we found a few situations of these, and it was always with these super dominant alpha females. And so it's not with everybody. It's like this certain type of person, this certain type of energy will bring something out of you that is unprocessed trauma. That's either a fawning or maybe you're fighting and it's aggressive, right? Like it's so, and we all have those things. And when you can look back on those patterns of like this certain type of person who I always end up friends with, or I always end up dating, and it plays out the same way. If you're willing to look at that and look at why, like what happened before this? What am I trying to get out of these situations? What is the energy, this old energy that I'm bringing to these situations? And I think a lot of the time it has to do with wanting something from people, like wanting something that's old, like old validation, old connection, something like that. And I think that's what dysregulates people, because if they can feel that you're either being inauthentic or that you want or need something from them, it can dysregulate them.
And I literally just recording this episode, it all like clicked into place in your episode with Alicia on We Get It, Your Dad Died. You guys went down this whole personal responsibility rabbit hole. And that's it. Like
yes.
Me taking personal responsibility for the abandonment of like strong female friendships that I've had. Cause like Susie wasn't the only one. I've had other best friends that are women that totally left me. And I'm like, what happened there? And it was always they abandoned me until the breakthrough came and taking personal responsibility, not being a victim. Up until now, I had always been a victim in those relationships. So go listen to Margy's episode with Alicia on We Get It, Your Dad Died. margywithahardg.com/Alicia is where you can find it. But that like all just clicked into place for me because it was really like confronting at first where you're like, what did you do? And I was like, bitch, I didn't do anything.
Yeah. And it is tough. And I loved that episode with Alicia because personal responsibility had been like my secret weapon. And I never told anybody because it's very awkward to like, you don't want to seem like a victim blamer. You don't want someone to say, oh my gosh, this person mistreated me or abandoned me. And you don't want to be like, well, what did you do? Like, what energy did you bring to that situation? Especially if it's something that's happened multiple times to you, like, what's up, like what part of you is co-creating that with them. And yeah, I love it. It is personal responsibility. And as a coach and as a mentor, the best thing that we can do for the people that we're working with is be brave about shining a light on areas for personal responsibility, even though it might dysregulate our nervous system, right? Because people might get really mad at us, but it is the only way to access your power and the only way that therapy, nervous system work, personal growth, affirmations, none of that stuff works until you first take the radical personal responsibility step. And once you take radical personal responsibility over your results, over the things that have happened, again, not self-blame. It's not, I'm a bad person. It's not, I deserve this. It's not, I'm unlovable. That's never going to be right. That's always going to be a distraction. But once you take true personal responsibility of why am I continuing to see this pattern show up in my life, then you actually are able to heal. The therapy works, the nervous system stuff works, personal growth will actually work and hit deeper. If you don't take that step, and you can see all around you and on the internet, people who are doing the work, quote unquote, they're doing the personal development, they're doing the therapy, and it's not working, right? Like you're just like, I don't think that's not it. Like, I don't think they've got it. They have not taken that step, and it's palpable. The changes that they're making are superficial. They're patches. But once you take personal responsibility, that's when there's a true transformation.
Yeah. So we hope that you like us pulling back the curtain and revealing so much to you. If you want to connect with us online, of course, interviewconnections.com. You want to get booked on podcasts, that's where you can find us. Follow us on TikTok too. I am taking over the TikToks and getting us out there. So at Interview Connections, at Hey Margy, go follow at Hey Margy for amazing, brilliant, life-changing 60-second videos.
Yeah. And since we've gone really deep into this coaching, and as I mentioned in the coaching, when we work with people, I also bring in Elisabeth to work with them to process through their body what we work on with their mind and energy. Since this is very focused on coaching, if this type of coaching and mentorship that we're talking about and these types of breakthroughs are something that you're ready for, if there's a part of you that's ready to stop avoiding it and knows it's time, and it's time to get this stuff complete and have this breakthrough to get to your next level, reach out to me, Margy at interviewconnections.com. You can email me directly, and we can talk about working together. It's not cheap. But if you're ready to invest and you really want these breakthroughs, I would be happy to talk to you.
All right. Thanks all.
Thank you.